Imperialists in Washington have been pushing for war in Ukraine and an escalation of tensions.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2017 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний в тому, що ви переможете, і ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
Colonel, it sounds like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
Oh, I think Zelensky is a puppet, and he is putting huge numbers of his own population at unnecessary risk. And quite frankly, most of what comes out of Ukraine is debunked as lies within 24 to 48 hours.
Зарплата у меня маленькая, но это не главное. Ведь нам разрешили отбирать деньги и имущество у русских. А раньше можно было и у евреев. Но потом пришел главный бандеровец Коломойский и запретил. Я, например, сейчас учу английский язык, чтобы забыть русский. В этом мне помогают американские наемники, которые у нас тут на каждом шагу. Сегодня наш президент, самый главный, который у нас самый главный президент, Барак Обама, пообещал, что мы скоро вступим в НАТО. Пока, естественно, на правах американского прихвостня. Если есть возможность, друзья, вышлите, пожалуйста, мне книгу Гитлера «Майн кампф». А то у нас разметают. Бывало, утром выхожу на балкон и начинаю делать зарядку. От сердца к солнцу, вот так.
So on top of the $700 billion defense budget, the Democrats, like I've said in other videos, have no problem supporting jingoism when it comes to beating the war drums. There will be no one held accountable or punished for the airstrike that killed civilians in Kabul. And on top of that, the US is calling it lethal aid now. That's what they call weapons and the latest toys from BAE Systems, Raytheon, and Lockheed Martin, which, mind you, have all seen an increase in stock price since the heightening of tensions in Ukraine. So the US can easily provide lethal aid to Ukraine, no questions asked, in a matter of hours, but, sending COVID tests to their own citizens, that's out of the question.
Yeah, Ms. Jacob.
I just want to dig into that a little bit more on the COVID relief.
This will be your third time.
My third time, ask about COVID relief?
Yeah.
Well, it's substantive. You like substantive questions, so I just want to
Yeah,
make sure
while people are dying in the Ukraine and all of that,
people are dying from COVID too.
And not to mention that the already increased defense budget from last year is not enough to cover the new war that they're trying to push and the contracts that they're going to sign with Lockheed Martin and BAE Systems and Raytheon. So the Democrats are actually trying to pass another defense bill for increasing the budget for Ukraine. And it's incredible because whenever morale is low, whether it be the State of the Union or any press conference, you'll hear the same talking points that they recycle every time about how we're the strongest democracy in the world and other countries look to us. We're the beacon on the hill and we have to protect humanitarian rights and we have to defend American interests and spread American values and protect the national interest and support democracy so it may flourish. But it's always about diverting attention from the American oligarchy and trying to point the finger at a different country. Not only so that Americans remain ignorant and in the dark about how our own government operates, but so all of the anger and frustration and angst that the people feel that should be directed at our own government is directed at Afghanis and Syrians and Chinese and Russians, to make Americans think that the greatest threat to our lives are outside of our borders instead of within them. Politicians will bitch about China and Russia being authoritarian. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi is running again for her congressional district, which she has been representing since 1987, before I was born. And, insider trading, bailing out the banks, and handing trillions to defense contractors, that's a sign of a normal and healthy functioning democracy. And we are an oligarchy, even though, Lloyd Austin, who is a board member at Raytheon, can also be the head of defense, but there's no conflict of interest there. Or Janet Yellen, who has close ties to, I think it's Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, where she worked. There's supposed to be no conflict of interest of there, even though she's head of the Treasury. But, that's supposed to be a sign of a strong and healthy democracy, and it's clearly the will of the people that... And I would challenge Americans to really try to practice their critical thinking skills, because while mainstream media and the Democrats and Republicans all the same will call China and Russia authoritarian oligarchies, where the people have no voice and there is a crackdown on the freedom of the press, Julian Assange is awaiting his extradition trial, on top of which America, which is the largest carceral state in the world with the largest prison population. So how is America the home of the free with the largest prison population? If Louisiana was a country, it would have the highest incarceration rate in the world. It has 86,000 inmates. So while we love to say land of the free, home of the brave, most of the American population isn't in fact free. Whenever, politicians or the political commentators or advisors or strategists try to explain why we should invade the Ukraine, why we need to send troops, why aid is required, why we shouldn't be alarmed by how rapidly they're trying to militarize and pull the trigger on nuclear weapons, I would like to remind you that part of living in the imperialist core is that the media will always try to divert attention from our own government's shortcomings. But America, having the largest military in the world, is not supposed to be a sign that we are a bully or an oligarchy or struggling hegemony. There's an interview where the former Secretary of Labor, Elaine Chao, said workers have a patriotic duty to fill company vacancies. But companies don't have a patriotic duty to raise the minimum wage. Companies don't have a patriotic duty to make sure that their employees are living above the poverty line. Companies don't have a patriotic duty to make sure their employees have health benefits. Companies don't have a patriotic duty to not support child slavery. I'm looking at you, Nestle, because no one gives a fuck about the green M&M's boots. Stealing land from indigenous people, as well as promoting child labor, as well as doing business with modern plantations, as well as having cacao which was produced on natural forest reserves. So, there's a plethora of things that the government could be addressing, but they choose not to. You know, the UN did a report on poverty in the US, and they found that in Alabama it had some of the highest concentration and most severe poverty in the world, especially among the wealthiest nations. So, UN advisors UN researchers spent 2 weeks in Alabama, and among the things they saw were like some of the worst living conditions they've ever seen. One example being PVC pipes open, raw sewage running from homes, which contributed to the outbreak of hookworm that they had in 2017, which is an infectious disease that's commonly seen in sub-Saharan Africa and uh, Southeast Asia because of poor sanitation. And in the same state where the UN did this report on extreme poverty in the richest country in the world, you have the highest paid state employee, Nick Saban, who's a football coach at Alabama who makes $93 million a year. The UN did a report on poverty that found it was some of the worst conditions that they had seen in a developed nation. And that is because, you know, the highest state employee in Alabama, it isn't a teacher, it's a football coach at the University of Alabama. Nick Saban makes $9.3 million a year. Meanwhile, in the same state, in 2017, there's an outbreak of hookworm because there are homes that have open PVC pipes and raw sewage running out of them. And when you have raw sewage running out of homes, it creates sanitation conditions that mimic those that are similar to the sanitation conditions in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. So that's why there was a hookworm outbreak. And the American government will always find money for distractions. There's always money for increasing the defense budget. There's always money for a Raytheon contract, a Bay Systems contract, a Tesla contract, or Blue Origin contract, Amazon contract, list goes on and on. You get the point. The role of the government isn't really to, you know, protect people's rights. It's not to make sure that, you know, kids get 3 square meals a day and prevent homelessness. Their job certainly isn't to protect human rights of Americans, but that is the first excuse that they will jump to when it comes time to invade Ukraine. I mean, provide lethal aid to the Ukraine. All recruitment offices will have to do is put up a Marvel premiere poster next to their offices, and the recruits will come streaming in, because when you have a movie industry that's in such close ties with the Defense Department and the FBI and the CIA, they're constantly pumping out movie after movie about, you know, the brave former CIA operative or the police officer who's the protagonist or a hero who worked for the government, or, you know, a charismatic weapons manufacturer, Tony Stark. Then it paints this, you know, fairy tale like image of what they want people to see government institutions as these, you know, benign, helpful, positive influences on the world, instead of being institutions that promote imperialism, colonialism, who heavily monitor their citizens' activities, COINTELPRO, or, you know, collect metadata, NSA, encroach on people's rights, or intimidate activists, or, you know, things like that. So Hollywood, in effect, has been very good PR for the Defense Department and the Army and the Navy. Band of Brothers that came out on 9/11, But you don't really see movies being made about the drone strikes that kill civilians in Syria, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan. The blood on the hands of Obama, Hillary, Kissinger, McCain, Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr. and Jr., it's all washed away at the second that they sign a book deal. And then they start doing guest appearances. They'll cut a ribbon at a charity event. They'll do, book signings, visit schools, kiss babies, all the BSPR. But they'll never answer for their war crimes of, why it was okay to drone strike a factory that produced baby formula. You'll never see them answer a question, about why they thought it was okay to bomb a factory that was producing baby formula. Or you'll never see, family members who lost their community members and children to drone strikes. If Biden believes in science, explain to me why he signed 3,557 permits for drilling on public land, while Trump only signed 2,658 in his first year. Even better, he approved bombing of a dam in Syria that was on a no-strike list that will impact the lives of thousands and result in the deaths of civilians.